say that because we plan to first very quickly. So
Yeah, it's
Glad to
really good. I got one open, and then one I will, in all likelihood, share. One I will share with clients.
like that.
So, but really, really good. Really enjoying it.
Thank you.
The other night, I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone the other night, and I decided, oh, let me just. It was like, sitting on the couch, nothing to do. I was like, let me just open this up and get busy. And
I only kept one bottle, and I'm regretting that. I might just have to steal one for myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
perks of being a
Did all
boss.
the work, you should.
I know, right?
Well, thank you guys for joining us today. I'm super excited to start this pick, and we met OJ a couple months ago, and he brought us this idea of doing a women in whiskey pick, and it really aligned with my ideals as a female co-founder of Frey Ranch, and something that I'm very passionate about. And so we had put together this pick that we wanted to launch in March, which is Women's History Month, and all the pieces really came together nicely. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I thought I would just give a brief overview of our brand and who we are, and that way you have an understanding of what we do out here in Nevada, and then we can jump right in and start tasting. So like I said, I'm Ashley Frey. This is my husband, Colby Frey. And then we've got Jesse, who works on our hospitality team. Mike Price, who is on the top in the center on my screen, is our VP of Marketing and Sales. And me and my husband started Frey Ranch Distillery in 2006. And we really had this idea that we wanted to grow 100% of the grains that we use in our whiskey. And Colby's a fifth generation Nevada farmer, and agriculture has been in his blood since he was a little boy. And from the day that we got married, we knew we were moving back to the farm, and we knew that we wanted to do something besides just grow grains and sell them on the open market. So we had a huge passion for American whiskey, and we loved where the category was growing. And we really felt like, what's the best way that we can take these really high quality grains and showcase them in a fun way that not only represented us, but was also a way for us to see that final end product. And we felt like whiskey, and particularly bourbon, would be a great way to take our wheat, rye, barley, and corn that we grow right here on the farm, distill everything in-house, on-site, we don't source anything, and then showcase those grains through a really high quality whiskey. So all of our bourbon is aged for 5 years. We use full-size 53-gallon whiskey barrels. Yeah, super excited to share with you guys today. All the samples are cask strength, and that's how they'll be bottled. As you're tasting through them, you'll see they have a really big variety, but they are all the same mash bill and all aged in the same warehouse. Do you guys have any questions before we jump in?
I have some very broad strokes questions.
Yeah.
But we can just keep it moving if everybody is ready, because I'm bored. I'm ready to go.
I just wanted to know what the mash bill was.
Yeah, so I've got these fun ones right here. So we use 66% corn. It's a non-GMO variety that we've been growing here on the farm. 10% soft white winter wheat, 11.4% winter rye, and then 12% two-row barley. That is actually, it's more typical to do a 6-row barley, but we do a 2-row barley because it actually malts better.
And we malt it right here.
Yeah.
We also have a malt house where we malt our own grains.
Yes, so in the spirit of keeping everything in-house, we couldn't either send our grain off to be malted or buy malt that was already done. So we grow the barley, and then we also have a custom-made malting drum, so we can just keep it all here.
My other question was, what kind of warehouse do you guys use?
So we have 2 different warehouses. These barrels came from a temperature, or not temperature controlled, but humidity controlled warehouse. We really want the whiskey to go through the seasons. So we have 4 distinct seasons here in Northern Nevada. Believe it or not, we are nowhere near Las Vegas. We are about an hour, 45 minutes east of Lake Tahoe. So you can imagine we get really warm and then really cold during the winter. So our warehouses are non-temperature controlled, but we do use humidity, especially in the summer, because Nevada is the driest state in the nation, that if we didn't put humidity back in our barrel warehouse, we'd see the barrels completely empty.
Yeah. We'd lose a lot, but it's also better quality at high humidity
Right,
too.
yeah.
So it's important for quality and quantity.
Mhm.
Wow. Where did you guys learn to distill? I mean, very broad strokes on that.
That would be.
Yeah, so we got our license to legally start distilling in 2006. But there was no state laws in the state of Nevada. And so we were able to, as a federal license, so we didn't have a state license because there was none. And so from 2006 to 2013, when we actually were able to finally get the laws passed in the state of Nevada, we could make it, age it, experiment with it, do whatever we wanted. We just couldn't sell it. We couldn't let anybody else taste it because there was no laws. And so that kind of was a blessing in disguise because it slowed us down. We played around with different grain varieties, different irrigation techniques, different fertilizer management, you know, all the things in the field, but also different mash bills, different yeast varieties. You know, we had all this experimentation done. So when we got the laws passed, we knew exactly what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it. And in that time, we played around with continuous stills, with pot stills, and we figured out exactly how we wanted to distill it. And we really toured quite a few distilleries, asked a lot of questions. And as farmers, we kind of know a little bit about electrical, about plumbing, a little bit about, weather and, how things work. And so it really just gives you the idea, like when Ashley and I go and tour distilleries, like we look at how they do it and either say, yeah, that's a great idea, or say, maybe we can improve it by doing this. And it really was kind of a fun time to figure it all out and make it truly ours and not somebody else's bourbon and distillery and everything else.
Nice. And are you, assumption, but are you using a column still?
We have both. And
Yes.
so.
We have a continuous still and a pot still. So they are double distilled. The continuous still is a really fast, quick distillation. The pot still is more refined where we can take heads and tails cuts.
Yeah, rather than having a doubler like a normal continuous still, we run everything through the continuous still and then through the pot, one batch at a time. And that way we feel like we can do a better, like Ashley said, better cuts, heads, hearts, and tails cuts with the pot still. But the problem with pot stills is they're not very efficient. You just can't get a lot of quantity out of it. So we strip it from 8% mash to about 40% alcohol in the continuous stills. That way we're putting 40% alcohol in the pot stills and we're getting 5 times more per batch in the pot stills. And that way we're getting quantity, but also still being able to take those cuts and get good quality too.
Wow, okay. All right, got it. Welcome, Pierre.
Sorry for my tardiness. Dad life is an experience.
Pierre just had his first child about a month ago. So
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
yeah, so he's doing all the fun stuff, the diaper changing, the breastfeeding.
Yeah, we were there not long ago.
Yeah, been there.
I was gonna say, if you can't see with the lighting, but my shirt, which is black, has plenty of milk stains on it.
Oh.
Yeah, we've been there.
Yeah.
So they were just explaining to us kind of their operation, Pierre, what they do, how they have set up, what stills they're using, and everything else. I just want to make sure before now that we're ready to get started, that everyone has they have the tasting sheet, right? I sent them and they have all their numbers, right, for their samples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I just have it roughly left to right for folks. I mean, obviously these don't mean anything for us, even though they have the proof on it. 988, 949, 986, 960, 912.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. You all ready to go, Pierre?
Yeah, let's start with 988.
Yeah. So about how many barrels are you guys like kind of laying down on a monthly, yearly basis? I know you do the 4-grain bourbon as well as the rye.
Mm-hmm. So we just actually back in, I think it was October, early November, filled our 10,000th barrel. So we've got a lot coming down the pipeline. Every year we've increased our production so that we can keep up with growth. Right now we're really only distributed with full distribution in Nevada and California. So,
And I think, I didn't tell Ashley yet, but we just calculated it out. Last year, we did about 3,780 barrels. We're doing almost 11 a day right now.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
But that's what we're producing. We don't have that much available for sale right now, though, but that's, every year we increased our production a little.
Where do you get your barrels from one place, or do you get them from multiple?
right now we've really sourced from 2 different cooperages. We use ISC, and we've also used a cooperage called Barrel 53. All of these are Barrel 53 cooperages. So same cooperage on all of the barrels today.
Where are they? I've never heard of them.
Barrel 53 is out of Higbee, Missouri, and their family, actually, it's kind of a fun story. Their family worked in the stave mill for a long time, and so they produced a lot of staves for big companies like ISC. Did I get that right?
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
own the stave
They
mill,
owned
yeah.
the stave mill, and then during the last big, I guess, barrel shortage back in, was it like 2013?
Yeah.
They decided to open their own cooperage to produce barrels, and we had a really hard time finding barrels, and they said, we can get you a couple truckloads, and they really saved us, so that was nice. And we've been buying barrels from them for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, they basically said you could be our second customer and we'll take care of you for life. And at the time, ISC and everybody else wouldn't sell us any barrels because they were so short-handed. And then we called them back and convinced them to send us their first truckload of barrels. So we actually got their first truckload of barrels. But it's neat because they own the stave mill, so they can kind of cherry pick the best wood for their own barrels.
Oh, that's very cool.
But they're kind of the opposite of ISC, where they're more of like a mom and pop, small, and ISC, you guys have, I'm sure, heard of them. And
You go over the mash bill again.
Yeah, so we're at 66%, 66.6% corn, 10% wheat, 12% barley, and then 11.4% rye.
Thanks.
So tell me, when you guys first decided, was this a collaborative decision? You were both like, all right, we're gonna start making this whiskey, or did one of you have the idea and you had to convince the other one that was like what we were going to do?
I think we were pretty much aligned that we wanted to do it, and it, I think a lot of businesses start out like, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. That sounds like it'll be a lot of fun, and I think throughout the process, it has been a lot of fun. I think starting any business, though, can be very scary to take that risk. And when, we're out here on the farm and we built our distillery, we built it really overly sized, because our idea is that we've got all this labor that works all summer long on the farm, harvesting the crops and irrigating, and we don't have a lot of work for our employees during the winter. So we oversized our distillery, and we thought we'll distill all winter and we'll farm all summer. And as we've ramped up our production, we've actually have 2 dedicated teams now, because we distill about 364 days a year. 3 days a year. Yeah, we take off Christmas and Thanksgiving.
yeah.
So.
And for me, it was great because I always wanted to be a farmer, but Ashley has her marketing and PR degree, and she's done so good with like the marketing and the bottle design and everything else. And so it was great because it's kind of combining both of like our strengths and our passions, and she's a great team and a great great person to have managing the ship, so to say.
I'm really passionate about our barrel program, and I've taken the lead on every single one of our barrel picks, which has been a lot of fun because I love to see where they go and all the tasting notes from each of the different retailers.
I did just go cheat and look up your bottle because I'd never seen one here in Kentucky before, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
That was Ashley, yeah.
Yeah, I worked on the packaging, and all the different elements of the design really tie back to us here on the farm. I mean, the topper is in the shape of a bolt, which is just a common tool that we would see here on the farm. And it's recycled metal, and it's not hollow, it's not wood. It just feels really good in your hand. And then as you work your way down to the label, that beautiful yellow color really mimics the corn that we grow here on the farm. Yeah, you can see that there. And then if you flip the bottle over, since you guys don't have it in hand, when you flip it over, embossed on the rim of the glass, it actually says, "Be good to the land and the land will be good to you." And that's our Frey family motto, and something that we live by. Just taking care of our crops and taking care of the soil health is really important to us, because that's really the strong foundation of our whole operation is the farm and the importance of the high quality grains.
Yeah, our goal in life is to pass on the farm to our kids in as good or better condition than we received it in. And so to do that, you have to take really good care of your soil, the environment, everything. Otherwise, as farmers, we don't have a future. And so that's really important for us.
It's important for everybody. I mean, I
Yeah.
hope everybody
Yeah.
starts taking that motto on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think recently we've seen a lot of our, the independent distilleries that we work with put such an emphasis, number one, on the crops that they use, and number two, on their sustainability. So we like to see that, making sure that nothing goes unturned or unused, and that when possible, things can be reused, even if it's by another company.
Mm-hmm.
So since this is the first time I'm doing this, what's the process? We're just trying this first one and taking notes.
Yeah.
Are we comparing against, or?
Try all 5.
Okay.
We're just going to talk. You can tell us all about yourself, your new life. And then when everyone feels like they've tried all 5 and they're good, then we'll talk about it and see if there's anyone that we like the least of the 5. If there's any consensus on that, we'll take it out and we'll talk about the rest and what we want to push forward.
Okay.
So Prairie and I met at a whiskey event in New York City back in the day before she abandoned the city and moved to LA for better weather. And we have been friends ever since. And when I go out there, I would try to see her. I haven't been out there in a little time. But between the last time I went out there and saw her and we talked, she got like a very cool new job. And you should break it down, everyone, and tell us about it.
I'm the commerce editor at liquor.com. I've been there a little over a year. Before that, I was a freelance writer. I was a blogger for spirits and cocktails for 6 or 7 years. I started writing about wine, spirits, cocktails in 2013. Had a blog called Bit by Fox, and then that turned into a podcast when I moved out to LA. And I've been with Liquor a little over a year, and I just wrote a cocktail book that got published in October. So
Wow.
that's my deal.
Oh, cool.
I'm a whiskey enthusiast, and that whiskey event we went to was a Scotch dinner.
Yeah.
And OJ helped me win a very nice bottle of Scotch. We had a little trivia that night, and
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
There was another fellow there who was really intent, right? It was the
Very competitive.
He was very competitive and intent on winning. They didn't tell us what the winner was going to get, but he was very intent on winning, and it was a Scotch trivia, of which my Scotch knowledge is not that great. I was actually there with Caleb Santana, who's another friend of ours who does a lot of picks with us. And we decided instead at our table to thwart this fellow and pool our answers. And we got out, I think it was 2 or 3 questions in, and Prairie was ahead. And Caleb and I my friend, were hopelessly lost. So when they would bring the new answers, when a new answer would come up, we were on our end of the table, all right, I absolutely know that I have this one correct. And we were feeding her the answers, and she ended up with the most right and won a super fancy bottle of Scotch.
Yeah, I was grateful. I held on to that until I think last year, right before I moved to this new place. But it was part of the Highland Park Viking series. I think it was Odin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it ended up going for like $600 a bottle in the end.
Wow.
But
Very cool.
Interestingly enough, Prairie, you know, that was one of the like when that event happened, that was one of the things that like the reasons when we started thinking about doing our own stuff. One of the examples I had given, because you know you were one of the only women at that event, and
I was always the only woman.
the only women at the event, and all of the guys, you know, I came with someone and we were friends, so we were cool. But most of the guys that were there were just really like just obnoxious and
Yeah.
and you know, I took that with me, that experience of being like, you know, we came in, we saw her, we met her. I was like, oh, Caleb, we should sit over here with her. This would be cool. It's, you know, this is a little bit more, you know, even on this side of the table. And the guys were so obnoxious that at the event when I left, I was like, all right, when I do my own thing, it's never gonna be like this. We're never gonna have like this experience with like these guys who got to tell everyone everything and have to be right. And the only reason they're here is to like win a free bottle of scotch. Like it just, that part of it was not fun. And I remember that very distinctly out in Brooklyn, walking away and being like, this would have been a much more fun event. Like we were having a blast on our side of the table. And then there was a bunch of competing guys kerfuffling at the other end of the table of the private room and complaining that we were cheap. But we were having so much fun. That's what I remember. And the rest of the guys were in a different headspace. And I was like, yeah, well, so
It was satisfying. It's always satisfying to beat those kinds of guys too. But yeah, I mean, it's thankfully it's changed over the years. I feel like the whiskey community there's so many more women involved, people of color that are represented. It's like, it's, you know, slowly changing, but it's always frustrating when I go to a whiskey event and it's all men.
Yeah.
I'm sure
you
can speak to that.
One of my favorite moments, we were at a whiskey event in Sacramento, and it was like a cocktail competition, and we had all these different groups putting together some Frey Ranch cocktails. And this lady comes up to me and she said, I'm a part of this whiskey society, but I don't really go to that many events because I'm always the only woman that's there. And I knew that you would be here because you're a co-founder, and I felt more comfortable coming because I knew you would be there. And that was just such a humbling moment. And I felt so good representing, you know, women in whiskey, and that we were there for each other.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, it is. It certainly is something that, you know, we aspire to, you know, to be inclusive. And, you know, look, this is just, I mean, naturally the people that I seek out. So, and Carolyn, I worked with, we did a barrel pick with Justin's House of Bourbon, and we worked the first time together was over email, where I think you did the tasting notes for the mixed doubles bottle that we did from Wilderness Trail.
Yeah. I actually, you know, in a staff of 10 to 15 people, where I'm the only girl, I actually am the one that does all of our tasting notes. So that is why my desk got so piled up when I had COVID.
Yeah. So you guys did a Wilderness Trail. Pat Heiss came out to the ranch a few months ago.
I think it was like a year ago.
It seems like a couple months ago.
It feels like a couple months ago,
Yeah.
but it was before COVID.
And it's really funny because
2 years ago.
ISC, it's hilarious because we've ordered 10,000 barrels from them. We got one barrel and it had Wilderness Trail on it, like laid in etched on the barrel, their logo on it. And the next week, Pat Heiss shows up at the ranch just to take a tour. And we're like, what are the odds like that would happen? And we're like, and I didn't even put two and two together. And our distiller says, hey, I got something I bet you've never seen before, you know, and like pulls them over and shows them the barrel. It was supposed to go to him. And it was
so funny. Yeah. Like we get a truckload of 288 barrels, and 287 said Frey Ranch, and that last one said Wilderness Trail.
And then he comes like the next week.
It was wild.
But he's
got
been
a tracker
really
in that barrel.
Yeah. He's probably brought more Frey Ranch into Kentucky than anybody else.
Yeah.
He orders several cases from a liquor store in Reno and they ship it to him. And He sends me pictures in his backyard with his Frey Ranch whiskey and stuff. It's awesome. Yeah.
He's great. We're gonna
He's
go
a
see him in
amazing
April,
guy.
yeah. Did you guys get a taste through all of them yet?
Very close. I got-
Uh-huh.
I'm close. I'm in the middle of my second or next to last.
Yeah, me.
I'm sorry, I'm like the slowest of slow tasters in the
I
history.
am too. I'm so bad at like everyone's done. I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I'm still here.
I'm still tasting.
That's
That's
okay.
okay.
Yeah, do it at your own pace.
I have a hard time finding words for what I'm tasting, so it takes me a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not the person to lead a very good whiskey tasting class.
Yeah, Pierre and I are like polar opposites. I try mine, I like to talk, blabber. Then I like to try them again with water. By the time I'm like on my second one, he's already like, I'm already done, I know what I want.
Right. I'm one or the other. I either know immediately, but I can't tell you why that's the one I want. I just know, or I'm gonna nitpick it apart and try to act like I'm good at palate notes.
We do about 150 picks a year here for House of Bourbon.
Hmm.
So this is so nice that I actually get to sit down and enjoy them. Usually it's like, Caroline, here's a box. Like if we get to
Right.
go, it's a nice way to spend a day. But sometimes when we go, it's literally just one of us has to get to the distillery and do it and leave. And
Yeah.
I think Sloan and I's record is like 17 minutes.
Oh yeah.
I know
I've
we launched our bourbon in December of 2019, and so we really only had like 3 months under our belt before COVID hit, and we knew we wanted to do this single barrel program, and we thought we can do this virtually, and it can be a really fun experience, and we can all talk about the barrels and in lieu of people coming out, and it's worked really nicely, and it's been something that we enjoy. And it's actually like my palate has grown so much because I've learned from this is probably like our 100th barrel pick that we've done, and just learning from other people and tasting alongside them has been so much fun.
But at the same time, we love it when people do come out
Yeah,
to the
we
ranch
do,
for
yeah.
barrel picks. Like we're not trying to discourage them, but at
Yeah.
the same time,
I think virtually totally works though.
yeah. And we
It's
like to
really
do it with you guys virtually though, because like
Yeah.
Ashley said, we learn and it's fun.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. This is only my second virtual one, and I've enjoyed them. They're pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely like to come out, but obviously in the interest
know,
of time, we
yeah.
can't do this one. But that's okay because it means, when we do our second one, we can do that one in person.
Right. You have to come out to the ranch for that one, right?
Exactly. Well, you don't ask, right? You don't ask.
I guess that's probably a good time to tell them how oversold the barrel program is, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I guess that's definitely a question I have for y'all. I perceive you all, and you can tell me if this is perception versus reality, or if I'm right or I'm wrong. But I perceive you all as a independent distiller that is, as we say out here in New York, on trend, and that really have recognized you lately, are really interested in what you're doing. And part of that is, your distribution is also right now pretty limited to, Nevada and California with some exceptions. And so people have been really interested to try your stuff, see your stuff, get involved, meet y'all, etc. So how have you found that? Is my perception right? Or is it off? Am I wrong? How have you found it so far?
Yeah, I mean, we, from day one, we knew that we didn't want to release a product that we didn't 100% love. So we never put whiskey in small barrels. 5-6 years ago, that was a big thing with craft distillers to use these small, 10-gallon, 30-gallon barrels. And we had done a ton of research, and we knew we didn't want to do that. And we knew we wanted to wait a minimum of 4 years. And at 4 years, we had started the packaging process, and the whiskey was fantastic. And it just so happened that the packaging and the custom glass took about a year. And we thought it's not a big deal. We want to get the packaging right, just like the liquid. So we waited a full 5 years before we bottled anything. And so we're limited today what we can sell, what we really distilled 5 years ago. And every year our production has gone up. So we're hoped to expand and be in more states, but slow and steady has kind of been our our philosophy and just enjoying the process and enjoying the whiskey and not rushing to any new markets or putting anything in a bottle that we don't 100% love. So yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah, and then the other thing is like with the barrel picks themselves is the demand for them is like, we could probably sell 3 or 4 times more than we have, but we want to make sure to not have just barrel picks. We want it to be a small percentage of our product in general. And that way the ones that do get done are special versus just having flooding the market. And so we really, unfortunately, have to tell like a lot of people no, which is, it is what it is. But
Yeah, especially when you're starting. Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. I can relate to that though. You can ask Mike. I pursued him for quite some time.
I know, and the poor guy has to tell people probably every day that they can't have a barrel or to reach out next year or something, you know?
When you're starting
guys.
out and you're still getting your name out there, you want people that are going to be a steward of your brand. You know,
Yeah.
you want to put it in a venue, whether that's a bar or a shop, that people are going to present it in its best light, are knowledgeable enough to talk about it. So I think for a lot of the younger distilleries that we've worked with, it's, you know, they're just nervous to just send it out and hope it gets sold, you know, rather than have somebody that's willing to take the time to hand sell it and explain it and say, you know, these people are malting their own grain, they're growing their own grain, you know. So it's definitely going to get easier as your name gets bigger, in the sense that you'll know that people are excited about it, and harder in the sense that more people are going to want it. So
Yeah, and that's what we're really excited for that. And that's why we also like to do it like these with you guys, because hopefully it'll help you guys get the message out to, you know, what it is when you guys, you know, hey, I was part of this pick and this is where it came from, versus just getting a box and not really understanding the brand. Or
I totally agree with Sarah. We have to do barrel picks too. And sometimes it's a little, I don't want to sound like a brat, but sometimes you're just going, okay, you want me to buy this barrel pick, but everyone else has it.
Right.
So it's going to be hard for me to even sell if everybody in town also can get it.
Yeah.
So from our perspective as consumers, we also appreciate you guys being a little more picky about who's doing it. And also, like Caroline mentioned, you know, being able to talk about your brand versus being on the stores of a big, you know, liquor store in town that no one's going to know what you're talking about. That's still important for y'all.
Yeah.
So Ashley just had an email this morning that some guy had, there's several people that have 15 or 20 of our single barrels and they collect them and they have tastings and it's
Right.
wild.
Yeah. So with all of our single barrel picks, we really pick them out from the barrel warehouse because they show like extreme characteristics. So some are super fruity, some are real spicy, the cinnamon bombs, and it's been fun because we've got customers that have like 16 single barrel picks. Or I think we had one guy that like the first year we did barrel picks, like drove all over Nevada and got every single one of our single barrel picks because they want to taste them and they want to see all that difference and what each different retailer picked out. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. I mean,
My
Katie's barrel picks in 20 got me through the COVID game.
I think that's when we met, right?
Yeah.
Just over Instagram. We've never gotten to hang out in real life, but
It's all right. I'm coming to Florida.
I'm ready. I'm waiting. Yeah.
Florida soon. DeSantis called me. He says he needs me down there, so I'm coming.
Hey, I like to say we're in the fun part of Florida, which everybody doesn't know about. We're a little bit secretive. We're not the South Florida or Central Florida. I don't know if I'm from I live in Pensacola, Florida, and it's literally as far west as you can get on the Panhandle.
Okay.
Everyone always is like, "Oh, I'm going to be in Orlando or I'm going to be in Tampa. I should pop in and see you." I'm like, no.
So my aunt had a house down in Apalachicola. Is that near you?
It's about 3 hours for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well,
We had
depending on
spent some
where,
time.
2 to 3. Yeah.
Yeah. And St. George Island, which was really fun.
Oh yeah. St. George is beautiful. I live roughly 45 minutes to an hour from Mobile, Alabama, if you know where that is. I'm
Okay.
closer to Mobile than I am most others.
Yeah.
Florida. So
Yeah,
it's
Katie,
a great spot though. I love it.
you should tell them about your 2 spots that you have.
Okay. So yeah, I own 2 bars here in town in Pensacola. The first one I opened up in 2013. It's called Old Hickory Whiskey Bar. And We started with around 40 different whiskeys, and now we're over 700. It varies between 700, 750. Was around 800 before the pandemic, but that's actually how I met Orlando. We had to turn into an online retail shop and indoor retail shop. And so we obviously lost a lot of our older products that we had. In our laws in Florida, we can't go out and buy from individuals. So yeah, it was kind of sad to see all those delightful picks go and bottles go, but it paid the bills, and that was what's so important. So
you're saying OJ bought all those bottles?
Bought a lot.
a lot of them. Yes, I sent many of the packages to New York. Yes,
I had a few rounds. Well, I was in Massachusetts in March. You know, we were in New York. I have two. You know, my kids are young. They're like, you know, now they're about 10 and 5, but they were at the time 8 and whatever 3. And we live in this, as you can hear, there we go. There goes the sirens. But we live in a big, like a multi-tower co-op building up in Harlem, and kind of a historic type building. A lot of senior citizens in our building, and we had these young kids, and we were like, all right, we have a nice, sizable apartment, but also we have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, 3-year-old. How are we going to keep these kids inside? They're telling us we can't go outside. We only, you know, our apartment for New York standards is sizable. It's about 1,400 square feet, but not for 2 tiny kids. So we decided, you know, I grew up in New England, and we went, my family has a house there. So we went out to the Cape and stayed there, except we were totally trapped. I could only take the amount of bottles a few I could fit in the car. And I remember seeing Katie on Instagram saying like, hey, you know, like we got to shut down the bar. We're going to start selling some of our picks for people who are interested. And so I just hit her up and I was like, just send me a list, because I'm on an island. I'm literally on an island, and I only have 6 bottles with me right now. So send me a list. Would love to support. And yeah, I think I got your 4 Roses pick at the time. There was another pick that you sent me that
you
I
got the Weller Foolproof.
The Weller Foolproof pick. I actually got multiples of those. And then I think multiple Stags.
Yeah, then you caught it at the very beginning, which was great because we were selling off all the fun goodies we keep in our like back stash to bring out years later. I mean, there were bottles that we had put back from when we first opened that we weren't going to bring out until our 10th birthday party. And of course, you know, anything to keep rolling. So yeah, Orlando got in there right at the
So I think the lesson we learned is we need to follow Katie on Instagram.
Yeah.
You just never know, right?
I actually have a story about following Katie on Instagram.
Oh,
All right.
Drop it.
Katie and I've never met. She doesn't know me.
Yeah.
This is going to be creepy.
No.
But I got hired by the guys that own the Bourbon Review, Justin and Sloan and Seth, over 5 years ago now. And one of my first big projects was putting together the list for the 2017 America's Best Bourbon Bars. So I'm going through and, you know, all these dusty little spots. And then I find Katie's bar. And I was like, this girl is so cool. Oh my gosh, look at her. She's a badass. Look at all this bourbon. And, you know, you're surrounded by guys that do this. And in Kentucky, we're a little bit more balanced in terms of gender at bourbon events, you know, 70-30 maybe. But still, it was just like, wow.
I love that.
So I've been a fan from afar for a long time. But
Well, I'm a fan of you, girl. Are you kidding me? Yeah, we've been really lucky, been in the Bourbon Review's Best Bourbon Bars since 2014, every year.
Yeah.
That was, I actually cried the first time we made that list.
Oh
And I mean, I get weepy every time, but it was like, I still remember I was driving to 38 to visit a friend who was vacationing in Seaside from Lexington. And I got it as I was driving. I was like, I got to pull over. This is a lot. Yeah. It was really amazing.
Oh my gosh.
So we're very lucky that you guys pay attention to people out in like Pensacola, Florida. Who would have like thought to pay attention to some little bar in Pensacola? So.
At some point, the boys stumbled in there and they were blown away. So
Yeah, I've actually gotten to have drinks with Justin one time in Nashville randomly. So I happened to be there and he was delightful. But
was it Sloan or Thompson?
It was Justin.
We got 2.
Thompson,
We got Justin
yeah,
Sloan,
not Sloan.
Thompson. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's him. I got them beautiful portraits of them in their, you know, old
I love
school
that.
garb there. I'm
That's
not doing this
fun.
right. There you go. That was their Christmas present from the staff here.
That's super cute. I love it.
But yeah.
Yeah, and for y'all that don't know, Carolyn is, you know, archaeologist turned bourbon taster.
Oh, I'm a historian turned
Oh,
bourbon
yeah,
bar
so
owner.
That's my title here. I was an archaeologist. I did field and lab work all over the Southeast for
Very
4
cool.
years. And then started writing a little for Bourbon Review and doing some editing and just bigger projects like the Best Bars list. And then when Justin Sloan and Justin Thompson opened House of Bourbon, Justin's House of Bourbon, they hired me to be the whiskey historian for all the vintage stuff. So
I love
I've been
that.
doing full time for 4 years now, which is crazy to think about.
Very jealous. It's like a dream job for me.
It's so much fun. Please come play with me when you're in Lexington. It'll be amazing. Yeah.
I am so down.
Yes, Carolyn rolls it out when you come to Lexington. But the best thing about that, when she rolls it out and you sit there and you taste there, is you're tasting a lot of the picks that she did, and her palate is exquisite, and so it's like it's like a high level tasting of different things that she's already done, which is amazing. So
Very cool.
she has a ton of amazing barrel picks to her name that she's orchestrated that are a hit. So that's always, whenever I go to Lexington, whenever I'm in Kentucky, actually, not even whenever I'm in Lexington, I aspire to actually just drive to Lexington so I can sit in the back and be like, what did you pick? What did you pick? Roll them out. Where do I need to go? Where am I picking next? That's how I try to get all my pro tips about where we should go next.
Noted. I like
She
that.
says-
Maybe one day you'll invite me to one.
If
Well,
she says I went there and they had good whiskey, I'm literally like Monday morning, 8 a.m. on the phone. Like, hey, what's going on with the barrel picks over there? How do I get it?
We when you come up in Lexington, or when you come up to do your pick at Wilderness Trail, you guys will have to come too when you come to do that. It's near Danville, with the Frey fam. But yeah.
We will be, let's see, the first week in April, I think, is when we're doing our Kentucky trip.
Yeah.
So
You gotta book those flights, guys.
I know. I was thinking about that yesterday.
I was too. Love to see it though, Caroline.
Work always just gets in the way, huh? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys,
Through anytime, we've got Lexington and Louisville shops now. So anytime
Yeah.
anyone's in town, we'd love to see y'all.
perfect.
Cool.
We will do that.
just out of curiosity, I'm ready. I'm ready, guys, just so you know, but I'm just curious from the Frey Ranch team, did you guys ever, like, what were some of the biggest, like your hiccups on the business? And were there ever times we were like, oh man, we bit off more than we can chew? Like, I'm just curious as to your small business, and I put that in quotes, but kind of your small, the struggles we all go through running a small business of like, damn, are we trying to do too much? Are we going down the right path? Should we reconsider? What have been some of your kind of biggest challenges there with what you've been doing?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
For me, like,
Yeah.
so as a farmer, you have to be like a definite optimist. You're planting a seed that you're hoping is going to grow. You're hoping you get Mother Nature treats you right. You hope you have enough water. And, there's so many things that it's just in our nature. And so to be honest, the whole time I was really positive and we just did it one step at a time, and knowing that
Yeah.
we had like Ashley to help with the marketing and everything. And we have a great team on the farm and everything else, that I was always positive the whole time.
I
really-
think one of the hardest things was putting so much money into something that that we waited that full 5 years. It was definitely scary to like put out so much money and have zero return, while you waited. But fortunately for us, like, we got to taste the whiskey. I mean, like, every month we would be going into the brick houses and pulling samples and tasting and seeing how it evolved. So that in that aspect, like, it was really easy. But our customers, in this area who knew what we were doing, they would ask. And here in Northern Nevada, where we have a huge fan base, I mean, every day I'd have people calling and emailing, like, when are you going to release your whiskey? When are you going to, put it in a bottle? And that was really hard because they didn't have our vision, and they didn't have our, they were not able to taste it. But when we did release it, I think that all that paid off because we had so much support, and it was like the biggest launch of.
It was, yeah, we
Forever,
launched
yeah.
in December of 2019. Our distributor said, if you launch a brand in December, it's a death wish. Don't do it. It's not going to work. And we released like December 7th or 8th. It wasn't even the December 1st. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like late, you know, a week into December.
Say the
And
6th, 'cause that's my birthday.
Yeah. Then, but that month we sold more. They said it was the biggest launch they ever had, period, let alone December.
Mhm.
And we sold more whiskey in that month than almost every other brand did the entire year in Northern Nevada.
Yeah.
So
I
it
mean,
was
it was
wild.
like-
Like,
Every couple days, our distributor would call and they'd say, we need 400 more cases. And we'd be like, okay, we got 400 more cases, you
okay,
know?
well, we
And
better
then,
start
like-
bottling more. Like,
Yeah, and then like 2 days later, they'd be like, we need 400 more cases or 500 more. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we ended up selling almost like 1,500 cases in that really short amount of time, just in Northern Nevada. And I think it was just our fan base. There's so much like pent up demand because people knew what we were doing. And, you know, a couple people have been able to pull some barrel samples and taste with us, but for the most part, we kept it all in and we debuted our bottle and did a big press thing. And so it was,
Yeah.
it was like the lows and then the highs. It's been fun though.
yeah, Northern Nevada's like population 400,000 maybe.
Yeah.
So it's not pretty small population.
They've all bought 3 bottles.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a similar scenario, but different because they have sourced. But we've been to West Virginia to Smooth Ambler, and they're very centric to, you know, they're supporting their local businesses and their local towns because there isn't a lot of other stuff going there. Now, obviously, they have pulled MGP spirits to get them started and have continued to, but very similar. Like they're in an area that isn't necessarily known for this, and they have a lot of support locally as well.
Yeah, and we're really happy. Like it's amazing how much support we get from California next door too.
Mhm.
To put it in perspective for you guys, we're actually closer to San Francisco than we are Las Vegas. So we're really, you know, right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was in Arizona visiting my mom when I spoke with OJ about doing this pick with you guys, and I was heading to Las Vegas right after Christmas for a week. And I was like, well, if Frey Ranch is anywhere nearby, I'll just stop in and introduce myself. And then I looked at the map and I was like, oh no, they're like,
yeah. It's
That's
about
not
a
nice.
6-hour drive.
It is not a fun drive either.
Yeah.
So it's desert. Like there's nothing.
There's probably 2,000 people from Las Vegas to Fallon
Yeah.
in Nevada. I mean, you'll pass 2,000 people's worth of
it's-
houses.
It's pretty
Yeah.
barren.
Yeah, a lot of dirt.
All right, well, I'm ready for us to move to round 2. Are y'all? How are y'all
Yeah.
feeling?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Who should we start with? Katie, you want to start?
Why did you pick me? I'm the one who gets like stressed about the most about notes. Okay.
Is there
So
any, is there one in particular that you're just like, it wasn't for me?
Yeah. So honestly, I'm not real great at telling you the notes of things. I already mentioned that. So I literally can just go down and say, I've already listed mine from my favorite to my least favorite. So I don't know if that's just easiest.
Yeah. So what's your
Okay.
yeah? Don't worry about notes, because you know what?
Perfect. Okay. So
It's good or it's good or I don't like it is the way I usually.
exactly. Same. All right. So 912 is my favorite, but I love a high proof. So that makes sense to me that is my favorite because it's the highest proof that we have, I believe. Yeah. That's one that I would drink really often. My second favorite was 949, shocker, second highest proof. I like that it stayed hot in the mouth, which is something I enjoy. Then 960 was my third. I felt it was an everyday drinker, something that, probably would be great as like a regular labeling of Frey, but maybe for a barrel pick, something a little more like poppy. The 980, it was on the sweeter side for me, which that's not my palate. And then 986 kind of felt the same way to me. Those were on the sweeter side. And I'm sure that's because the proof was lower, but I love a high proof. So 912 is my favorite. My least favorite is 986.
Least favorite.
Well, I'll go next because mine is almost Katie's list completely inverted.
I feel like that's how it always is, the palate.
So my bottom two were your top two, just because the heat for me, which I do love heat, but it came across almost too peppery, too much like white pepper, clove, almost to get unbalanced on the finish. For the other three, because they were sweeter, they had that just like brandy melt at the end of it. It almost seems like brown sugar, brandy, like that almost winey note. Where on the finish of the other three that were in my top three, your bottom three.
No, that's hilarious. That's how crazy are. I'm a high rye girl and high proof girl.
And I
so
love high rye, but I like it like 110, 115 proof, usually, like in that range.
Yeah, see, I'm like 120 and above sounds great.
Yeah. Just kick it
So
up.
which one was your top choice?
So my top choice was 986. I found really, really good fruit in there, like berries and cream. I found like some double bubble, brown sugar caramel, and then like I said, when it melts, it's that kind of brandy, little dusty hay when it first cracked, but kind of opened up, sweetened up. But it, to me, was like those little strawberry cream savors on the nose, like so sweet and fruity. And then
threw dusty hay in there just to let you know.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I like that. It's like, I like that.
Yeah.
And then 60 or 960, some good fruits and florals. Again, that jammy kind of berry note. And then licorice. This is probably, the better bourbon in terms of just balance and technicalities, 960 in my opinion. But 986 was my favorite.
What was your favorite?
Oh,
So mine went 986, 960, 988, and then 2 and 5 were my, so 949 and 912 were my my cuts.
Got it.
so I was closer to Katie, although I have some crossover with Caroline. My top two are going back and forth because I kept going back. I chose it and then I went back and forth between the top three, really. But my top pick was 912, like Katie, but really 960 I kept going back to 960 and I kept thinking, this is what I would drink if I was at home a lot. This is a bottle I would go to. I think because it's actually a little bit more delicate than 912, and it had just so much fruit that ended up coming out for me. It was the reason why I picked 912 as my first one was the salted caramel right away. It was like bam, salted caramely, deep, rich, big flavors. And I'm like, initially I'm always like, that's what I want. But 960 was my second choice, but I would maybe raise that to first because as I said, I kept coming back to it. I really also liked 949, which we hadn't really talked about too much, but that was also another big flavor, lots of caramel, less fruit, I think, than 960. And my bottom two were 986 and 988.
I will say, just throwing this out there, I did really enjoy all of them.
Oh, yeah.
I thought they were fantastic.
Any of them would be fantastic.
Yeah, never having tried a Frey Ranch product before, you don't know what to expect going into it. I was very, very pleased.
Yeah. And I love that it's all the same mash bill,
Right?
each the same amount, just slightly different proofs. So I mean, so much changes, and it's with each of those, and it's fun to compare against.
Yeah.
Nothing's bad.
Right.
All right, here we go. No consensus. Just kidding. Pierre, where you at, man?
Well, I'll preface this by saying I'm coming out of retirement to taste these, as I have not had a single ounce of anything alcoholic since the birth of my daughter.
Wow.
What?
So 5 weeks without tasting,
Dang.
surprisingly has changed my palate considerably.
Back.
Yeah.
and for whatever reason, they on the palate, they all came off, well, not all of them, but most of them came off pretty bitter to me to start out. And I added a considerable amount of water to kind of temper them down to get some better tasting. Like the nose on them were amazing. I felt 9, 88, 86, and 60 all had very similar kind of notes. You know, the sweetness, fruit, cereal, strawberry were apparent for me. 49 and 12 were rather different. I got more caramelized cherry on 49, and I got, for whatever reason, I got like a chocolate rickhouse. I was thinking like a gingerbread house made out of chocolate that housed barrels and barrels of bourbon. And I got a chocolate rickhouse nose out of 912.
A barley malt.
Yeah, and in the back of my head, all I can think about was, and I think, Caroline, I think you said double bubble if you meant the gum. I was getting chewing gum prize in a children's cereal.
Ooh. Your notes are so visual. I love that.
So at full strength, my mouth was dying, to be honest with you. So
Welcome back. Welcome back, Dad.
Not going to be super helpful there, but from a watered down perspective, I'm definitely leaning the same way as Katie. 912 has given me a lot more flavors and complexity that I lean towards. And I'm typically more lean towards the sweet side and complex, but this one, although it was slightly more astringent, foolproof, tempered down with considerable amounts of water, and gave me more complexity and brought up more of those chocolate notes and caramelized sugars.
Wow, that leaves me, and I'm clearly gonna have to rank these on a new page, which I didn't do, but I think this is a great testament of the fact that you have a lot of interesting products, and even though you're using the same mash bill, like the thing that struck me about drinking these 5 is I was like, these are all the same mash bill and like roughly the same age. It's kind of peculiar because some of them had some real like the barley was forward, some of them the rye was forward, some of them the wheat was more present than the others. I think that I am interestingly I think tied up with, I'm in the same space where Carolyn is at, right? So I had 960 was 912 to me. I did not like as much as y'all did, right? But I was like, okay, I see where Katie's at, rough and that's the that's the badass bitch box.
I have a really, like I said, I love an aggressive palate. My Garrison Brothers pick is 137.8, and to me, I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Texas bourbon too. Wow.
Yeah. It's real hot and dark, but I like it.
I had kind of I had my top 3 were 988, 986, and 960.
Same, yeah.
That is so funny.
With 960 being ahead and 986 and 988 being close to one another. Where were you, Carolyn? You were right.
I had 960 being the best bourbon in terms of, like I said, like technical balance. But 986 being my favorite just because it got that like berries and cream note, kind of those strawberry lifesavers. And then 988 was my third. And that one I had like big red gum and a little bit of cigar smoke down too for it. But they all had that kind of sweeter brandy finish. And then the 949 and the 912 were the ones that got just too hot on the finish to me, where it didn't fit how kind of sweet and brandied the rest of it was.
Yeah. All right. So I think we can say this, right? 949 Prairie, you liked it, but it wasn't your favorite.
Yeah, it's like third for me.
Right. Was anyone else hyped on 949?
It was my second favorite. But the one thing I do want to say, 960 is the one we've all talked about. And the reason I put it in the middle of my ranking, I've never gotten to try y'all's, flagship. To me, and like Caroline mentioned, it's very technically perfect in that sense. And I think for me, I was like, well, this is something that I would imagine the regular would taste like, which is delightful and wonderful, but I've never had it. So that's why I always tend to go on the opposite scale, a little more intense and crazy when I pick a barrel pick, because I don't want it to taste like the flagship. So maybe it is the best one of the group. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Like never having the flagship. It's a really great one. To me, I literally wrote down everyday drinker. It is something that I would drink on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's what
I wrote down for 960. I always look for something that has that just really nice viscous mouthfeel, and just the front of the palate was really creamy for me, and I always lean towards those barrels. So for that reason, it was my top pick. And like I think you're trying to say, it's very safe.
Yeah, and not in a bad way. To me,
Not in a bad way, yeah.
To me, if I was going to bottle one for the like masses, my normal one, that'd be the one I'd probably bottle for my label, if you will.
So
But the thing about 960 is, and I think I mentioned this before, that it has so much more nuance than a lot of the others because there's so much fruit there. It's like, I noticed more fruit in 960 than any of the others.
would
I
any
didn't
of
take
y'all,
away from you, OJ, but I just wanted to get that out there that I didn't pick 960 as my third because it wasn't great. I put it there because to me it was like I would assume is the baseline.
Well, that's the fun of picking a barrel where, everybody that can goes on the pick can have a favorite and that's what you take, but the crowd pleaser was somewhere down the line,
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's why I specified like, yeah, I have my favorite that I want my barrel of, but if we have, 100 odd people that are going to get a bottle of this, 960 is probably the best one.
can I push 949 out? Does anyone be mad about that?
No.
Okay. So we got 988, 986, 960, and 912.
912 is empty for me right now because I've been trying to get it, I want to
know why we're all hyping it. Yeah.
I love 912.
Me too.
I thought
I'm going to do a little bit of water and see where it gets me.
Yeah.
Like I said,
think if you're trying to get rid of another one, OJ, I would personally the 988. I feel like none of us are really talking about that one either. It's either 912, 960, or 986 that we're all into. But that's
988 was super middle of the pack for everybody, I feel like.
Yeah.
That was my least favorite.
Yeah.
I like that one, but I'm okay.
This is your barrel though.
I like that one, but you got to give to get. So okay. Look, there's a lot of things.
You are doing it for the Women's History Month bottle, so I think maybe you should go with one of the women's picks, right?
All right. Yeah. So we're looking at right now. So I'm gonna move 988 out as well. I'm gonna re-pour for myself 986, 960, and 912, and play games with those. So,
okay.
And apologies to us, Team Frey Ranch, that we are taking so long, but
This is so much fun.
well,
This is my favorite thing. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Yeah, I for one am not sorry we're taking so long.
Right.
Right. I'm like, I don't have anything to do this afternoon. I get my kid in like 3 hours and it should be fine.
Soon.
The husband will handle her. It's fine.
Right.
I have a lot to do, but the
I have to
speakeasy
get back to work.
right. All right. So I'm gonna go back through these. I'm gonna drink them again, and we can talk about a few things real quick while we do it, because there were some stuff I wanted to ask, in particular of y'all. Like one of the things I always like, Caroline and I have had this combo a couple times, at least one time when I was there, and I was like, tell me your like most hilarious mansplaining, people don't recognize you know what the hell you're talking about scenario. Because I just think like that is something that I always want to bring to the table, which is like, yo, dudes, you're not acting right. Like, you're not acting right. You have a predisposition to assume, even though all the science says that women have better palates than men, you have a predisposition to assume that women don't know what they're talking about when it comes to whiskey. So I'm curious, like, what is your like most hilarious experience with dealing with dudes and dealing with guys and whiskey?
I am going to nominate Katie to go first, if that's okay, because I just feel like yours is going to be amazing. Like,
I don't know. I mean, the one that stands out to me is it has nothing to do with my palate. It has more to do with me owning a whiskey bar. I opened Old Hickory when I was, well, I signed the lease at 25. It opened when I was 26. And that's pretty insane. I look back and I'm like, if I saw a 26-year-old girl doing this, I'd also probably be like, okay. But a couple of years into owning the bar, maybe 2 or 3, I would happen to just be there. And I was bussing some tables. They were having like a really busy Wednesday or Thursday night. It was a random pop. And I was just trying to be, I mean, as an owner, you just do everything, right? So I just, was bussing some tables for the bartenders because we don't have servers during the week. And this older gentleman walked up to me and asked if he could order a drink. And I politely told him, I'm actually just removing some glassware. You want to order through your bartender? And he was like, well, I'd love to talk to your owner if he's here right now. And so I just was like, no, I'm sorry. Who are you looking for? It's like, yeah, I'm looking for James. And I'm P.S. I'm 100% owner of Old Hickory, always have been. So I was like, okay. No one by James works here, and the owner's name is not James, because I'm not trying to go into a full debate. I'm just trying to clean up glassware and go back to my life. I'm technically not working at that moment. And he argued with me for a good while and was like, your boss, how do you not know who you work for? And that's when I, in my nicest voice just said, I'm not sure where you got your information, but my name is Katie and I'm the owner of this bar. And he straight up looked at me in my face and said, no, you're not.
Oh.
Yeah. It was very bizarre. I've never had anyone ever be that aggressive, but I just looked at him and I was like, okay, so I'm not getting anywhere with you with that. So have a great evening. And he straight up said, so you mean to tell me that the person who told me the owner's name is James was lying to me? As if I'm trying to, get into an argument with them. I said, I don't know who you got that information from, and I'm not trying to speak for them, but nope, no one named James works here. And I'd be the owner and went about my business. So who knows? He probably still thinks someone named James works there. I don't know. Maybe he's finally Googled it and read an article perhaps or something. But yeah, that's probably the most intense story I have about a man trying to tell me how to run my business. But I don't even run my business.
Right. A man told you actually don't own your own business.
Yeah. He even looked at a bartender and said, is she lying to me or does she actually own this? And they looked directly at him and said, no, that's my boss. And it was, of course, it was a male bartender, so they believed him ish.
So frustrating.
Yeah. The things I hear from my female bartenders, it's heartbreaking, honestly. They've got way better stories than I do about the mansplaining. So, but that's probably my most aggressive one. So there's that.
Sucks.
what do you say to that?
You don't. You just say, well, I'm sorry that your friend made up a story to you. Have a great evening. I couldn't. It's not like the guy apologized and said, oh my gosh, well, okay, then I'd love to talk to you about whatever I thought I was going to talk to this guy about. It was immediately like, no, you're lying and I'm done with you. You can go about your business. So you don't see anything. You walk away and just let them continue living their best old white man life. So on that note, I shall have another drink.
What do you got, Pierre? Because you have like a very wide ranging career. You have a book, a cocktail book. You have your cocktail game is there, your spirits game is there, your editorial game I know is there. You have your own you have your podcast, but then also, and this is the thing, your wine game is also very prolific.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of wine, there's a lot of mansplaining in the wine world, too, especially when I was first getting into it. I mean, oh God, it's so many stories. But I mean, I bartended when I was very young and didn't know what I was doing. And so I didn't recognize when people, treated me poorly, not in that way, or they didn't respect me as much. But like once I started learning my shit and then, started writing about it and then became an expert in it, I I think something about wine that taught me, as that was my foray into spirits was wine. It was that the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know. And I think that was a really good lesson because no matter what I knew, there were still people that knew more than I did. And I would never assume that I would know something that other people didn't. And I take that with me, and I'm always shocked when people treat anyone with any kind of disrespect, because it's like you don't know what their background is or what they've studied, or and whether they're men or women. And but I think the biggest sort of mansplaining has happened on dates that I've been on, where I think a lot of men.
That's not going to work.
Yeah, no, bad dates. But it's usually, and it's always around bourbon. I feel like there's always opinions around bourbon, and it's just, if they like it, if they're enthusiasts and they've got opinions and they think are fact, like just arguing about the, Tennessee whiskey is a bourbon, and, like like I had this argument about Jack Daniels and yeah, it was just so many dumb stories like that where they know my background and it doesn't matter. That's what gets me, is like when people they know that this is your thing, this is your expertise, and then they still lean in on whatever idea they think is correct. And it's like, yeah, what? Just listen. Why don't you just
Yeah. So my reaction to that, to somebody, questioning me or wanting to be sure that their information, or wanting to prove that their information was correct, I ask them, what do you do? Oh, I'm a realtor. Okay, so if I tried to argue with you about what a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is,
right.
do you see what that would be like?
Yeah, people who take their passion
Yeah.
and they try to act like it's their actual job, it's pretty frustrating. And that's always what it is. I have never come across, I shouldn't say never, but super, super rarely have I ever come across anyone in the spirits industry that's a man who tries to mansplain or prove me wrong in something that I've said, because they understand we're all professionals. I've not really had to deal with too much of that lately, but industry men are really great about it. I've never, especially the bourbon guys, all the bourbon people that I've ever met, the men have always loved the fact that you're a woman and want to come into the world. They've never tried to distance you. To me, it's the consumers and the people who become obsessed with whiskey, which is fantastic. But again, like you said, a realtor coming to you and trying to explain whiskey versus you trying to explain to them. Well, heaven forbid, you better not do that.
And I don't know what a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is, or even if that's a thing. I made that term up.
Sounds great.
I think it's a thing.
That's a real thing.
Yeah, there you go. Seems like he has a mortgage.
I've heard it in passing.
but yeah, and it's funny because I do deal with the very, very average consumer here, like somebody that either has never had a sip of whiskey in their life, that's come to Kentucky for the first time, wants to see this huge collection, and they're excited about it. So, I very rarely get overt misogyny, but I get a lot of, is there anybody I can talk to about the bourbon? And do you drink bourbon?
I get asked that question. I'm like, I own a whiskey bar. What do you mean? They're like, but do you actually drink it?
Yeah. Sometimes I had that question asked while I had a mug in my hand that said, this is bourbon. And it was bourbon. But the fun story I'll tell to kind of bring it full circle is, the number one question we get is, y'all got Blanton's and y'all got Weller, y'all got Pappy. So we do have people in that are looking for, those kind of first step unicorns where you've never seen a bottle of Blanton's in real life, you're excited to get one, and it's a great bourbon, you know. Maybe you've tried some at a friend's house or at a bar, at a fantastic whiskey bar like Old Hickory, and you want to buy your first bottle. So that kind of is the mindset that I take interacting with most of my customers. I want to introduce them to things that they haven't had before, whether that's, like I said, regular old Blanton's or, you know, something from before Prohibition, because we have everything. But a group came in one time and, you know, a couple grabbed some Weller Blanton's or whatever. And I just kind of, you know, gave them the regular spiel. Here's our retail price stuff. Here's our collections. And went about my day. And they started asking a couple questions. They just look like golf dads, you know. They were coming off the course and they were
Dads. I like that.
yeah, you know, like mid-50s golf dads, you know.
Pierre, you're in trouble right now.
Here's a golf dad.
I didn't really pay them too much mind, you know. And then a couple started asking questions about some of the older bottles, and I started giving them answers. They started asking more questions. I started giving them more answers, you know. And I mean, you know, 2 hours later, it was like this group of really great, respectful guys that had been interested in bourbon for years that were so glad to meet somebody else that was interested too, and ended up being part of a fantastic whiskey group in Nashville, who I still count as friends, you know. So it is cool to see how, you know, I've definitely prejudged the bourbon drinkers too.
I've done that as well. It happens. I mean, I think that's just human nature, but at the same time, like voicing out loud and arguing with someone is where you just got to stop. That's the problem.
100%. Yeah. I did, and I was so glad someone heard it happen. I did have somebody, I just thought of this, did have somebody tell me, but you're just a young lady, what would you know about whiskey? And my manager heard it happen, and I was like, yes.
Well, let me tell you all the ways that I do.
I was like, oh no, you're good. I don't have to deal with him then.
True. I hear that from my female employees far too often, and it's disheartening, but luckily there are really awesome men out there who do like respect them and their palate and their knowledge as people who are in the spirits industry. So I know we complain, but it's easier to pick out the negative ones because they happen so randomly and infrequently and so terribly. But there really are a lot of great dudes out there. Really. I mean,
and like you said,
when I went, go ahead.
The industry is just full of fantastic guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Sloan and JT that I work for,
Mm-hmm.
happy to bring me in, happy to give me thing. I mean, I remember telling somebody like, oh, I think my favorite Van Winkle is the 16 year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, they were like, I don't think there's a 16 year. Yeah, because it was from the 90s and the boys gave it to me when I've been doing this for 2 months. Yeah. And I didn't understand, you know, gave me a pour of it. I didn't understand how good it was and how rare it was. Like, this is great. Yeah.
But that's the thing, you have to be willing to accept when you say something that might not be correct or maybe a little random like that. Most people wouldn't know about 16
and
years.
I didn't understand that it was that rare. Yeah.
No, but I know a lot of times as women, it seems like we're just bashing men, but they're great men out there. I mean, hello, look at you guys that facilitated this and the men out there like you guys who are creating this product. I mean, and my husband, who I called on the phone and said, I think I want to open up a whiskey bar. And he said, sounds great, babe. You should do that. And now he works for me. So there are a lot of fantastic men out there who do appreciate females in this industry.
Is there anything, just out of curiosity, is there, and then we're gonna hit these final pours, and now it's gonna be on.
I know.
Be on with the top 3. But is there anyone, if there's one thing that you could say, I think the industry should change this, and this would be really helpful for everyone, what would it be?
You know, I think they've started hinting down that path, but for me, it's the marketing side of it, where it's either super like about dudes drinking whiskey, or it's like, oh, we love women and we're just going over the top to let you know that we do. It's like, I've seen some really great commercials recently where it's just like everybody is drinking the whiskey and they don't point it out if women are drinking it or people of color or a gay person or a white guy. They're all drinking it together, and it's not about that. It just is that. And to me, once we get down that level where every commercial has every spectrum of person in it, then I think that's what I would like to see.
There's still so much gendered marketing in the liquor industry. And I feel like whiskey is getting better about that, but then there's all these other, you know, like with vodka and gin, and I feel like there's also like a lot of women are in marketing, so they're the ones to blame in a lot of ways that are marketing towards women for certain things. I go to the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America conference. Not every year. I haven't been the last couple of years, but it's in Vegas and in Orlando every other year. And it's this amazing rollout of like all the brands that are hitting the market, or brands that are looking for distribution, or it's pretty much like so many people are represented. Have you guys been a part of that, Frey Ranch?
Yeah, we did Vegas
2019,
a couple years
and
ago.
then we were gonna go in 20, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, I was there in 2019.
In Vegas?
No, maybe it was 18. Was it 18 or 2019 in Vegas?
I know it switches.
I know,
we were in Vegas one year.
And then Orlando the next year. Maybe Orlando 2019. But
yeah, so it might have been 18.
It might have been 18. Yeah.
But I'm in such a bubble. Many of us in this industry are in such a bubble that we don't even realize it. But when you go to a conference like that, you see everything that's released and everything that's marketed. It's like so many random things. And then you realize, wow, there's just, you know, there is a lot of bottles that are marketed just for women and women's palates or whatever that means. And it's like, it's just bizarre. Or
He has
like,
no idea what women's palates means, man. She's smoking me out here.
yeah,
she's instigating. She's instigating.
and in some ways, like we've gotten a lot better, of course, in this industry, but then there's these weird like outliers and extremes that, you know, will still always exist, and it's sort of niche-y, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah.
Ashley, do you have anything to add? Like, you know, you guys, you're a team, you know, like in multiple ways, right? You're a business team, you're a family team. You know, do you ever run into this stuff where people think, oh wait, you're here, my man is here?
Yeah. No, I think the best example I have is, you know, me and Colby do everything as a team, and we are the co-founders, so we're equals in our business. And one time I was looking at an article, and, you know, you do these interviews with people, and it was Colby Frey, the CEO and the founder, and then it was like with his wife, Ashley. And it was kind of like, you know, I'm also the co-founder, and you know, we are equals, and we have very different strengths, but we're very equal in our business. And so that put it into perspective for me, because at the time, and like we had all mentioned, a lot of the men in the industry are very open to other women in the industry. And I haven't seen a lot of, I guess, negativity being a woman in the industry. But at that moment, I thought, you know, I do deserve more, and I am a co-founder, and we are equals here. And that is kind of what really, I guess, put us into this Women in Whiskey program, to recognize other women in the industry. So yeah, I've definitely seen it. But I really resonate with what Katie said too, and I like how you mentioned it's all about including others and not excluding people, because I think when we come to the table and we do advertising and marketing, it's not about excluding the men, it's just about including everybody. And I definitely feel that and agree with it.
Yeah, and I can totally resonate with the husband-wife duo, because my husband works for me. And to this day, the one that also gets on my nerves the most is liquor reps who have been my reps for years will say, hey, this is Tony, he's the owner of the bar, and his wife, Katie. And my husband is the first to say, no, I work here, she owns the bar.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, I can also understand how it feels when you work with your husband to just get like grouped in as he's the one that does everything, and I just happen to be the wife.
Yeah.
Sadly,
like I'm like the second. Like
exactly. It's so bizarre. It is so bizarre. And I don't to me, that's the biggest one that like freaks my mind out. How a husband and wife can work together, and people still assume that the man is the one who does the most or came up with it or runs it. And the wife just is like, oh, that's your dream, honey. I'll follow you and do that. No,
Right.
you both want this. You both do this. Or the opposite. It was my dream. It's my business. And he just happens to be kick-ass at that position that he's in. And he's a badass. And that's why he works there, you know?
Oh, distribution. Let me count the ways it's a problem. Colby, you have a thought on that? I mean, you know, you're in it on a day-to-day as a team, man. I'm just curious what your thought would be.
Every once in a while, I'll hear Ashley answer the phone, and they'll try to ask for me, and they're trying to sell something or something like that. And she'll just say like, "Look, I'm the owner too. What do you want?" You know what I mean? Something like that. And I'm just that's kind of the kind of stuff that I think people don't realize. Like, she is an equal partner, and she can make decisions and do stuff without me, so they don't, you know.
Yes.
I've heard that several times.
Yeah, that happens daily.
I'll just chime in that we at Frey Ranch all know who the real boss is.
Yeah.
We know who runs.
And they're not wearing a hat right now.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Real bosses don't wear trucker hats.
Mike better put on a hat real quick.
I love a hat, OJ. You know this. Don't even put that in there.
Oh, please. I got the trucker hat you sent me with pins. So I will say this.
Exactly.
Katie sent me this. So not only when I ordered a bunch of the stuff, not only did she send me a cool trucker hat, but she sent me these pins. My Instagram thing is Neat Rocks Cocktail. And she sent me pins that said Neat and Rocks on it. To this day, I was like, this is the most thoughtful, like, I literally was like, look, send me the booze, here's the money, boom. The fact that she was like thoughtful about it and like, not only, this isn't just a package. You know, I definitely took some notes on that because we hadn't even gotten our liquor license yet at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I took some notes on that. I was like, this is what real customer service is all about. Like, not just being like, okay, yo, you ordered some bottles, I'm gonna send you these bottles, but like going the extra mile to think about like who the person is that you're servicing and like what you're gonna do to like keep them.
Yeah, when we were shipping off all those bottles during the pandemic, I made it an extra point. We wrote handwritten notes to everybody and threw in some fun swag if we had it and it was available. Because those people were the ones keeping our business alive at that time. I was able to pay all of my employees their normal hourly rate, which isn't great. We all know that, but also their average tip rate the entire time we were closed. They never went without a paycheck. That was their normal paycheck. So I wanted to make sure people felt appreciated when they did that.
That's like honestly amazing for a bar to do that.
Yeah, I was really lucky. We, Tony, my husband, he's the one who applied for all the grant programs through the government. And we got those to pay for our regular bills. So we were able to pay our employees and, like I said, sold all the really good whiskey. So, you know, that's all gone, but it was worth it. And we didn't lose a single employee. And most of them to this day still work for me. And the only ones that have left, they've moved back to their hometowns or onto something new. So I'm very thankful for people like OJ who did support us during those times. Absolutely.
Well, we're all in it together. This is a curious scenario of being involved in a capitalistic scenario where we can also trim the edges on that and not, it doesn't have to just be all about cash.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I agree.
I'm sorry to say, I'm gonna have to get going.
All right, so we got 3 left. What are we gonna do?
No, we're all having far too much fun just chit-chatting, hanging out.
I thought this was only an hour and I'm like,
Yeah,
Okay, it looks like I was the only one who was super hot in on 986. Has anybody retasted and felt my way, or should we cut that one?
I have 986 in tied for second place.
Okay.
986 is my third.
it's my fourth.
Okay. Well, we only have three left, I thought, right?
Yeah.
Oh, right. It's my third.
What's your third?
986.
I'm cutting her out.
I think it sounds like she's not going to make it.
It's after I went back, I said, I see it and I do enjoy it, but even after trying the other two, it was still my.
All right, so we're into the thick of the battle, yo. It's
All right, 960, the crowd pleaser versus 912, the heavy hitter.
I think that's exactly what it's going to come down to.
When I put the water in 912, I got it. I found that salted caramel. I found like some of those jammy notes, and I think a lot of the spice then translated to like an antique to oak for me. So for a 5-year, it was fun to see that oak once you add the water.
Yeah, I
960
could definitely see where, and that's what I love. I love a nice oaky moment. And weirdly, on my second run of everything, I got marshmallow out of 912. Not like a burnt marshmallow, but like a fresh one. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was still my number one, even after going through it again. And I think that's because when I do barrel picks for my own business, I try to pick things that are a little bit more crazy and off the normal scale. So to me, I'm still stuck on 960 being like the perfect thing that you bottle for all the time. And 912 being something that I pick random to showcase next to the flagship this is a weird barrel pick that we enjoyed doing. That's where I stand.
I'm about the same. I still really love 912, but 960 is amazing. And
I agree.
I would be
They're
happy
perfect.
that was the pick. Like that's
Yeah.
a really great bourbon.
Well,
OJ's like, I hate 912. But here
no,
we
you
are.
know what? I mean, 912 was growing on me, but 960 is like a hitter to me.
Yeah, it really is to me. And honestly, if I'm saying this should be the whiskey you sell every single day, well, that means it's damn good. So,
And just to put this in perspective, I mean, the proof difference is, 126 proof versus 128 proof. So it's not, am I doing this math right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a
still
crazy proof difference. And I'm still going to vote for 960, being that I think it has better balance and doesn't get thrown by that pepper, by that spice at the end.
So
See what you did there,
I
OJ?
played the 960.
That-
OJ's going.
I see exactly what you did there.
What was that? What did I do?
You played it so you know you had 2 on one and 2 on the other, and then you
No,
went
no,
first
no.
this time instead of me going first. Now it's rest on me to be the tiebreaker. I see.
I like 60.
Nah, I mean, look, Pierre, I mean, I just run the business. Pierre does all the picks, man. Yeah,
Well, here's the thing, Peter. Ashley's already voted 960 as her number one. So technically the best you can do here.
Well, here's the thing, if you guys don't pick 960, I might put it in the contender for like the tasting room distillers pick. So
See, and that makes sense to me. It
Right.
really does because it is so like a fantastic barrel.
yeah,
I'm just a weirdo, and I know Prairie feels the same way. Like I always go for the oddballs just because I need it to be as selling it from a bar. I don't need, if someone gets the normal
Right.
and then the barrel, I need it to be drastically different so they'll want to buy the bottle for me. So I'm coming from my side, but I'd be super stoked about 962.
And that was my perspective on 986 too. I mean, it smells like raspberry jam. It smells like those chocolate covered acai berries you get from the Sam's Club. That's 986 for me is like, I know nobody else liked it, but that's my like
No,
weird.
I did. Girl, don't get crazy. It was still delicious. But yeah, I'm totally happy, even though 912 was my absolute favorite, and that's what I would pick for my business. I can see that 960 is a really perfect pick for this.
And I think Katie and I are both in the boat where if you do 912 or 986 for your tasting room, we'll take a bottle.
We'll have one.
We'll
I
have
shall
one. You do
send you the
986,
money
we'll
and
one.
send me
You
a
do
bottle.
912, Katie wants
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right,
960.
got 'em already.
Yeah.
Did you write down those addresses, Mike?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, everybody's address.
Yep, I already sent them in for shipping, so.
Oh, good.
I got it. Mike.
yeah.
Yeah, I think in normal circumstances, OJ, I would probably say 912 because it is that kind of standout oddball, multi-layered, complex dram. But I think in terms of what we're looking to do for this pick, and being, the vendor stewards of Frey Ranch, I would say 960, and I think that's something that we can put forward and really bring some enlightenment to the brand from our perspective.
Okay, 960 is. I mean, look, Ashley, unless you want to give us 960 and 912, you could sit on it.
I wish I could.
Sit on it. I think I heard Katie wants 912. I heard Katie wants 912.
If only they were in Florida, I'd scoop that barrel up in a
Right.
heartbeat.
Do you guys want to give Mike a heart attack? Because that's how you give Mike a heart attack.
If Ashley will give it to you, I'll make sure it gets driven. I'll have someone drive it
I
down.
could, you guys, but no, I think 960 is an awesome
Yeah,
barrel.
cheers to that.
Yeah,
Let's-
cheers to
yeah.
960.
You going 960?
Yeah, we calling it.
Yeah.
OJ?
Call it 960
Oh,
it
wait, I
is.
gotta
Cheers,
pour a little
everybody.
more. I gotta pour a little more because I drank it all.
Come on, OJ.
Sorry, I gotta. Wait. I'm back. All right.
All right.
Oh,
Good.
cheers.
Cheers.
Poor Mike looks so sad down there with that.
I know, you don't have your.
Mike was
I
really
should
nervous
say
that he was gonna have to figure out what to do with the barrels. That's why.
Well, yeah, it was gonna be like, who do I have to call from this list?
Yeah,
And
it's a really hard
risk my
call.
life.
I'll talk to him, Mike. Give me their numbers. I'll be fine.
I just want to say to y'all at Frey Ranch, one, thank you
Yes.
for entertaining us and working with us. And, you know, we can't wait to come out and actually see you in person. We love the Zoom and we've had a great time, but we really want to, like, there's nothing better than being able to come and see what you guys do in person
Pick that rye.
and everything that you've built. And number two, we just appreciate that you understand what we're going for and that it's about a little bit more than just making whiskey, and that there are bigger issues and bigger things going on that we want to bring attention to. And we just appreciate that y'all understand where we're coming from and that you see the vision and that you want to participate as well, because, you know, we just see the spirit. The spirit is the spirit, and we enjoy the spirit and it's fun. But you could also drink it by yourself in a closet, right? Our intention is just using the spirit to bring people together, show all of the similarities we have, but also highlight the differences so that people can understand where we're all coming from and that people can learn something. And to me, that's the biggest thing, my biggest excitement and enjoyment out of doing anything that has to do with any spirit, whiskey in particular. And we just appreciate that you understand the vision and you want to participate. And we love what y'all are doing. And we just can't wait to do more with you. And in particular to Carolyn and Katie and Prairie, like, thank you very much. Thank you for accepting me as your friend and your homie. And I just personally, all business aside, I personally appreciate it. I've learned a ton from all of y'all. And I'm just happy that we finally got this opportunity to like do this one thing together. Look, I got tears right now. Sorry, I got tears. I'm a crier.
Thanks for asking me to be a part of this. This has been great. And my
Yeah.
first barrel pick. So
Your
This was
first barrel pick?
great.
Wow.
Oh my God, why didn't you tell us that in the beginning?
We would have had a cake. We would have had a Carvel cake.
I know.
Oh my God.
God. I love that. Well, cheers to Prairie's first barrel pick. I think that's the most
Yes.
important thing that's happened the whole
Absolutely.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. This has been awesome.
You guys are always welcome at the ranch.
Yes.
Anytime you want to come, reach out. We'd love to show you around.
Really
Thank you. And whenever you guys
fantastic.
decide to get into Florida, I'm here and I'm ready. I know
Yeah.
that's a
Alright.
large state, so it'll be a while, but
In LA, same goes for LA.
All right.
Yes.
Across the country.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Have a good
Thank you,
afternoon.
guys. Thanks, OJ.
I'll check.
Bye.
Yeah.
Everything
Well, good night or good. Have a good day.